Moishe's Miracle by Laura Krauss. Melmed, a Hanukkah story illustrated by David Slonim. Starlight, star bright, magic on a winter's night. White snow, candle glow, far away and long ago. In the poor village of Wishniak lived a milkman named Moishe and his wife, Balia. Since he owned only 2 cows, Moishe earned a meager living. Still, he was known as a generous man, always ready to help his neighbors. Balia scrubbed and cooked and tried to scrape together a few kopecks for a nice Sabbath meal, but oi, how she would scold. Everyone said she had the sharpest tongue in Wishniak, and little patience for Moishe's generous ways. It was early winter, and already the wind prowled the icy lanes of the village like a starving jackal. Many were feeling the pangs of hunger. Malka, the widow, and her ailing son, Shmuel, Hashni Fenster, out of work, with his wife expecting their 13th child. Frail Bubby Rivka, housebound with her calico cat. Moishe left an extra quart of milk. Here, a pint of thick cream. There. And the night before the holiday of Hanukkah was to begin, Balia untied her knipple, the knot in her handkerchief in which she kept their money, and shook the handkerchief in Moishe's face. Empty! All because of your foolish generosity. How will I buy eggs and flowers to make our Hanukkah latkes, much less the oil to fry them in? Moishe imagined coins falling from the handkerchiefs into Balia's pan, where they turned into golden potato pancakes. Oh, he could almost smell those latkes frying. Oh, well, he thought with a sigh. We have to be thankful for what we have. Balia, don't fret, he soothed. There are enough onions and potatoes for a nice pot of soup. But Balia would not listen. How did I end up with the Shmuel when I could have married the baker's son? On and on she scolded, hands on her hips and eyes rolled heavenward, until Moishe fled to the cowshed for some peace. He flopped down on the straw. How sleepy he felt. Moishka, Moishka. The milkman sat up suddenly. Rubbing his eyes, he looked around to see who was calling him. Imagine his astonishment when he found that it was one of his cows. You have always cared well for us, Moishe. You keep our shed clean, milk us on time, and feed us plenty. Most assuredly, chimed in the other cow. So although we seldom reveal to humans our power to speak, we want to help you, dear Moishe. While you were sleeping here tonight, the first cow went on, a stranger came to the shed. For hours he entertained us with tales of magic and adventure. You snored loudly all the while, but before leaving, he hid a gift for you. There, under the straw. She pointed with her velvety black nose. For me? Moishe reached down and felt something cold and hard. He pulled out a battered frying pan encrusted with grease. An old pan? He tried not to show his disappointment. But such a pan! Exclaimed the second cow. According to the stranger, you only have to set it upon the fire totally empty, and it will produce as many delicious Hanukkah latkes as you wish. Latkes by the dozens, latke by the hundreds will appear until you remove the pan from the stove. Just remember the stranger's warning. To Moishe this gift was given, and only Moishe must use it. Moishe was overjoyed. He showered thanks on the cows and milked them, for it was early morning. Then he returned to the house and hid the frying pan on top of the wardrobe, intending to surprise his wife with it later on. That evening, Moishe and Balia lit the first Hanukkah candle with the chamis. The candle used to light the others. They would add a candle to the menorah on each night of the 8 nights of Hanukkah. With the menorah glowing in the window, Moishe took down the magic frying pan and told Balia all that had happened in the cowshed, being careful to repeat the stranger's warning. Of course, Balia believed not a word of Moishe's story. I'd never heard anything so meshugana in all my life, she scoffed. A pan is a pan. Nevertheless, Moishe placed the pan over the fire. A lively sizzle filled the air. Soon the rich aroma of potatoes and onions frying made Moishe's nose twitch and Balia's mouth water. And then there were latkes, plump as little pillows with edges like golden lace. The latkes were so light they floated right into the air as they finished cooking. Bali and Moishe leaped about the kitchen, catching them. When each had a plateful, Moishe removed the pan from the fire. Then he and Balia ate their fill and went to bed. How Moishe tossed and turned that night, twisting the coverlet into knots. Perhaps he had eaten too many latkes. In his dreams he saw Shumel and Baba Rivka, the calico cat and the fenster brood. They marched about his bed holding empty plates and staring at him with hungry eyes. The next morning, Moishe left a note on every doorstep. Happy Hanukkah. Please come for latkes tonight at Moishe the milkman's. It seemed that all of Wishnyak squeezed into Moishe and Bali's little house that night. Latkes galore sailed from the magic pan. There was singing and dancing to Heshi's accordion, and the children spun dreidels, little Hanukkah tops. Only Balia stood apart, shaking her head. Moishe was giving things away as usual and making a mess of her house. If she could just get rid of him for a while, she could take matters into her own hands. The next day, Balia hid the Hanukkah candles under the bed. Moishe, there are 6 more days of Hanukkah left, and all our candles are gone, she wailed, and then she sent him off to borrow some from the sister in the next village. She knew it would take him hours to walk there and back. As soon as the door banged shut, Balia made a sign and hung it in the window. Balia's Cafe, luscious latkes, 1 kopek each. She took down the magic frying pan. Of course she remembered Moishe's words about the stranger's warning. To Moishe this gift was given, and only Moishe must use it. But why shouldn't the magic work for her too? After all, she was his wife. Balia placed the pan over the fire. There was the sizzling sound. It grew louder and louder as she waited for the perfume of frying latkes to reach her nose. But instead, a burning odor filled the kitchen. Balia pushed the pan from the flame, but the smell grew stronger, catching in her throat. A plume of smoke uncoiled like a gray serpent. Dripping up some water, Balia flung it into the pan. Hiss! The water spattered everywhere, and before she could blink, each droplet changed into a hairy little demon with pointy ears and a forked tail. The creatures danced around and round Balia, giggling and pelting her with burnt latkes. Then, climbing onto the chairs and the table, they shook empty handkerchiefs in her face. Balia spun this way and that until she was dizzy, but she could not escape them. Just as she swooned to the floor, the door opened. In blew Moishe on a cold draft. He was followed by Wishnayak's own rabbi and his wife, the Rebbitzin, whom Moishe had chanced to meet on his way out of town. It was the Rebbitzin who sold the candles to the villagers, and she had kindly given Moishe enough candles for the rest of the holiday. Moishe in turn had invited the couple home for latkes. The demons took one look at the rabbi, shrieked in terror, jumped back into the pan, and vanished instantly in a belch of smoke. Balia was brought back to her senses by a whiff of the Rebbitzin smelling salts. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. The demons had scared her speechless. Forever grateful to Moishe for saving her, Balia took time from her housework to help with the milking. She fed the cows and cleaned the shed. With his newfound love of cooking and entertaining, Moishe prepared meals and cared for the house. By the end of Hanukkah, Balia found that she could speak again in a voice so kind, even the cows conversed with her. And from then on, Moishe and Balia were seen delivering the milk together. As for the magic frying pan, even back in Moishe's hands, it refused to make another pancake. So instead of sitting on top of the wardrobe, it was sealed in a display case in the rabbi's courtyard. But the fame of its latkes and the tale of its demons spread, and soon folks were traveling from far and wide to see it. Everyone hoped to see the demons under glass, making a surprise appearance, and sometimes they did. The visitors to Wishnyak needed food and lodging, heels for their boots, and hay for their horses. Soon the village grew into a bustling market town where no one went hungry. And for years to come, even on the coldest Hanukkah night, candles burned brightly in the windows, and the smell of frying latkes rose over the houses in the golden haze that seemed to reach the stars. Snow on the rooftops, milk in the pail. This is the end of this Hanukkah tale. The end.